Megafone secretário da OTAN, 1 bilhão de pessoas, uma aliança, uma missão. O secretário-geral da OTAN faz um poderoso chamado à ação. À medida que as ameaças globais aumentam, a Europa deve se mobilizar. A Polônia lidera o caminho. A cúpula de Haia moldará o futuro da OTAN.
In my first speech as Secretary-General in December, I said I wanted to start a conversation with the 1 billion people living in NATO countries about our security. And what better place to continue that conversation than here in Poland? You are truly a leader on defense, spending 4.7% of GDP this year. You are a strong supporter for Ukraine. And Poland has put security at the heart of your EU presidency. In my meetings earlier today, I thanked President Duda and Prime Minister Tusk, not just for talking the talk, but for walking the walk when it comes to our collective security. Now, I want to take some time with all of you to address the questions about the strengths of the transatlantic bond and to sketch out the path to our NATO summit in The Hague in June, following my recent discussions in Washington with President Trump. I know that things have been moving fast in recent months, and many of us feel less secure in this rapidly changing world. Russia's war against Ukraine is raging on, and there are concerns about how it will end. However it ends, Russia will remain the most significant and direct threat to our security. Russia is ramping up its defense spending and has moved to a war economy. It is rapidly rebuilding its armed forces, built on Chinese technology, backed by deadly Iranian drones and North Korean troops and missiles. Putin has not given up his ambition to reshape the global security order. And he is not alone. China, Russia, Iran and North Korea are increasing their military cooperation and exercises. Beijing is carrying out its own massive military build-up, including of its nuclear forces, with no limits or transparency. What's happening in Europe matters for the Indo-Pacific and vice versa. Securing lasting peace for Ukraine is essential for European security and for global stability. The world is watching. I welcome that President Trump has broken the deadlock with Russia and that talks are ongoing towards a ceasefire. I also welcome that the UK and France are leading efforts to contribute to a lasting peace, which we will again discuss tomorrow in Paris. At the same time, I know there are questions about the strength of the transatlantic bond and the United States' commitment to European security. There is tough rhetoric. There are difficult debates between Europe and America over trade and tariffs. And there are calls to revive ideas of European autonomy. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not the time to go it alone. Not for Europe or North America. The global security challenges are too great for any of us to face on our own. When it comes to keeping Europe and North America safe, there is no alternative to NATO. Without the US, UK, Turkey, Canada, Norway and Iceland, it is impossible to imagine the defense of Europe. And nothing can replace America's nuclear umbrella, the ultimate guarantor of our security. A strong transatlantic alliance remains the bedrock of our defense. And stronger European allies are a unique strategic asset. which allows the US to promote peace through strength on the global stage. When it comes to security and defense, I'm absolutely confident that the United States remains committed to NATO and to Article 5. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to President Trump, who has repeatedly stated his commitment to a strong NATO. Listen to the strong bipartisan support in the US Congress. And listen to the American people, 3/4 of whom support NATO according to a recent poll. I heard this again loud and clear in meetings in the White House with the President and on Capitol Hill 2 weeks ago. And it's not only about words, but also about actions. US troops lead our NATO forces here in Poland. American strategic bombers patrol European skies. And US aircraft carriers send a message of strength at sea. Yes, Europe needs to know that Uncle Sam still has our back. But America also needs to know that its NATO allies will step up and play their full part, without restrictions and without capability gaps. It's only fair. Reassurance is a two-way street. The US commitment to NATO comes with a clear expectation that European allies and Canada take more responsibility for our shared security. So, at our summit in The Hague, we will begin a new chapter for our transatlantic alliance, where we will build a stronger, fair and more lethal NATO to face a more dangerous world. A stronger NATO means investing and producing even more for our defense. A fair NATO means all allies doing their fair share. And a more lethal NATO means that where we will always remain a defensive alliance, we will always be ready and able to do whatever it takes to stay safe. When it comes to spending more, European allies and Canada have stepped up with huge new investments. Last year alone, they increased defense spending by 20%. And over the last decade, they added an extra 700 billion for defense. And many have pledged to go further and faster. Poland is leading the way, alongside Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, moving to spending 5% of GDP in the coming years. The German Parliament has unlocked more than $1 trillion in extra defense and infrastructure spending. Czechia, Denmark, Sweden, France, Finland, Norway and the United Kingdom have committed to considerably ramp up spending. And the European Union, only last week, came out with an initiative to free up to 800 billion for defense. All this is nothing short of a sea change for NATO's collective defense. This acceleration is absolutely necessary, and we have to keep our foot on the gas. When it comes to producing more, there are also great examples. Europe and North America are now producing millions of rounds of 155mm shells. New gunpowder and TNT factories are being built across the alliance, from France to Finland. And there are more fifth-generation fighters flying in alliance skies than ever before. We are also producing more together. Take the F-35, which combines American ingenuity with British know-how, Italian finesse and Dutch technical expertise. European companies are supporting ammunition production from Texas to Florida. And the US and Europe are building a new Patriot missile factory in Bavaria, in Germany. This is the kind of industrial win-win we need more of, not less of. This is how we rebuild our industry together. And this is how we create jobs and growth on both sides of the Atlantic. There are so many opportunities to boost our transatlantic defense industry even more. There are hundreds of billions of extra euros and dollars to go around. But we must go much further and faster to ramp up production across the alliance. The need and the urgency are crystal clear. Finally, European allies and Canada are also doing more for our shared security through NATO. They lead 7 of our 8 multinational deployments on our eastern flank. An Italian commander leads NATO's peacekeeping mission in Kosovo. A Dutch commander leads our training and advisory mission in Iraq. And European allies lead on NATO air policing over Iceland, the Western Balkans and the Baltics. When undersea infrastructure in the Baltic Sea was threatened this winter, European allies stood up in record time through NATO's Baltic Sentry, without the need for a single US ship. European allies and Canada are also playing a bigger role in Ukraine. Last year, they provided almost 60% of NATO's military aid to Ukraine. NATO's command in Germany is now coordinating security assistance and training for Ukraine, with logistics hubs including here in Poland. And Poland also hosts NATO's Joint Analysis Training and Education Center, a joint initiative with Ukraine to capture important lessons and innovations from this terrible war. Over the last decade, NATO has carried out a generational transformation of our alliance. We have significantly increased our presence on our eastern flank, invested in new capabilities and military infrastructure, and revitalized our defense industry, backed by large-scale exercises to demonstrate our commitment to each other's defense. At our summit in The Hague, we will need to do even more to ensure all allies do their fair share, based on ambitious new targets for all NATO allies, strengthening our capabilities, readiness and deterrence, including air and missile defense, long-range missiles and more ground forces. This will enable Europeans to take on a greater share of our collective defense, while maintaining strong American commitment and presence in Europe. So we know what we need to do to stay safe today and strong tomorrow. We know exactly what forces, resources and capabilities every ally needs to provide. And we have the plans and procedures in place to defend our own nations and support Ukraine. NATO allies represent half of the world's economic and military might. 2 continents, 32 nations and 1 billion people. Together, in NATO, Europe and North America are unbeatable, today and in the future. So to our 1 billion people, I say this: be assured. The transatlantic bond is strong. And yes, we will make NATO a stronger, fairer and more lethal alliance. That is how we all stay safe in a more dangerous world. So thank you.